We wait 1 more minute and then the translation is also ready. Senti Maria Cristina? Sì, c'è? Va bene. Yes, I'm going to speak in English this evening. Ciao. Ciao, ciao. Okay. So, even though still some people are coming in, I think we can start. So, very welcome during this week of Dharma in Nature. And you have had already some lectures these days. And today I like to talk with you about this title, Nourishing Life Through Traditional Medicine. And especially today I'm going to focus on acupuncture, Chinese medicine. Is it working, the translation? Perfect. So thank you very much, Maria Cristina, for doing the translation. And Carminia for always being present behind the screens to arrange also this live conference. So this is the part 1. Hopefully the coming weeks or maybe another Dharma in Nature, we're going to talk about part 2, and this is about Tibetan medicine. But first I will introduce myself shortly because I'm working as a family doctor in Holland, but since a couple of years I'm living now here in Albagnano. And that's quite a big change. And how come? Because 20 years ago, more or less, I met Lama Ganchen Rinpoche, and he inspired my life in many ways, also seen from the professional point of view. And he taught me to look through such different perspectives towards healthcare. And so from the beginning I met him, he was asking me to do acupuncture on him. And I said, but Lama Ganchen, I have no clue about acupuncture. I never used needles. And he said, anyhow, you do. So somehow he let's say, encouraged me to start to study in that direction. And also in regards to Tibetan medicine. So often he gave me his pulse. And as a Western doctor, of course, I started to feel the rhythm and so on. And he was having a very high fever. So I said to him, oh, your pulse is very high, but it's regular. And then he said, no, other way. And then I was thinking, other way? What do you mean with other way? And then he said, yes, you know. And I was thinking, you know? I don't know, because I did through the method I learned at my medical school. But he was at that moment also showing me the pulse reading the way the Chinese doctors are doing or Tibetan doctors are doing. It's completely different. So he encouraged me all the time to be curious and to search further. So today I like to share with you some about the traditional Chinese medicine. And to start with the first part of the, let's have a look, of this lecture of Chinese medicine, I think it's good to have a look from this point of view, where to place the traditional Chinese medicine in the whole healthcare system. Because as you can see here, and this is an overview that is used in the National Centers of Complementary and Alternative Medicine, to point out the medical system that we have. They use this model. And here you see the biologically based practices. And this is also part of Western medicine. It's about medicine, Western medicine, but also supplements and herbs. Then you have the mind-body medicine that you can see here. And this is also related to yoga, for example. A part is called energy medicine. For example, homeopathy is often mentioned here, but also meridians, as we're going to talk about the Chinese medicine. And then there is also a whole part of manipulative and body-based practices like massage, Tai Chi, not Tai Chi, sorry, about Shiatsu, these kind of things, acupressure. But there are some medical systems and that cover all 4 parts, and Chinese medicine is one of them. But there are more. So here you can see the other of the whole medical systems. Traditional Chinese medicine, Ayurvedic medicine, Tibetan medicine, but also naturopathy, the homeopathy and the anthroposophy. Those are medical systems that includes all these perspectives and also try to offer a method to bring a whole approach towards treating a disease, and not only, for example, only medication or only surgery. So, as I said before, today we're going to look only at traditional Chinese medicine because the topic in itself is already quite big. But what is it? What is traditional Chinese medicine? I made an overview of some of the aspects of traditional Chinese medicine. So it is about nutrition. Maybe it's not the first thing that you think about in traditional Chinese medicine, but food is very, very important. And it's the basis of curing a disease. Nowadays, we start often immediately prescribing medication, but it's very interesting that actually 70% of treating diseases through traditional medicine goes through a right balance in the food. Then there are, of course, also plants and herbs. Cupping is a method that you can see here. They use nowadays glass, but in the past they used also copper. And with the fire, you make it vacuum, and it sucks the skin up, and it creates a strong blood flow in an area where there is an obstruction or painful area. And you can see it can create also quite some red or blue spots, depending on the time you keep the cups on the skin. But it's a very effective method. And I understood that also here in Italy, in the past, the nonna, they were using these techniques. Yeah, yes, I see some people nodding. No, that it was a method that not so long ago was quite common also to use here in the West. So moxa is a way to use. It's a kind of stick. You can say it's a kind of incense that we use close to the skin. And also you can use it on the points where there are acupuncture points. I will explain later on what they are. And by the heat, using this moxa can also create an effect on the body. And gua sha is a way that we use to scratch the skin and also to activate blood circulation. So there are just some examples. Then you have also the tuina. Is tuina known for some of you or not really? Tuina actually, yeah, some people know. Tuina and shiatsu, they are quite similar, let's say, but tuina was first developed in China and later on it went to Japan. And there it was developed more in the direction of shiatsu. So shiatsu is a more you can say a more deeper or profound type of massage compared to the tuina. And you have also the acupressure, and this is a type of massage that we use on specific acupuncture points. So there are some differences to mention. Then also in Chinese medicine, often you have heard about Tai Chi. Tai Chi was once a kind of protection, it was a practice to protect yourself in a kind of martial arts, but also to heal yourself. And the Qigong is a more meditative state of movements. So just I mentioned shortly, and you can say far more about all these subjects, but just to mention a few of them. Then the electroacupuncture, you can see here on this image, that we use sometimes this way of treating the needles, because you can give the needles a small stimulation, and that gives the needles more effect. So this is called electroacupuncture. And of course the acupuncture in itself. And this is just only using the needles, as you can see here. They're very, very thin needles. And you touch the skin towards the level of the fascia. So we have first the skin, then there is sometimes a tendon, but we use the points at the arms or the legs that touch the fascia. Later on I'm going to tell some more about that. It's a very interesting new developments of understanding from more a Western point of view how acupuncture could work. Okay, so if we talk about traditional Chinese medicine, is it a right way to say about all these treatments that it is traditional Chinese medicine? Actually, you could also say maybe it's better to talk about traditional Eastern medicine, because the Chinese often claim acupuncture comes from China, but maybe some of you know Jayasuriya. He was a good friend of Lama Ganchen. He found some interesting archaeological artifacts in Sri Lanka about more than, they say, 30,000 years ago. So it's really, really long time. And with this this body corpse, they also found stone needles, and they think that at that time already they were using a kind of acupressure through stones. So it's a technique that is not only found in China, but also other countries in the East. And if we talk about this traditional whole medical systems, it's interesting to have a look also what about Western traditional acupuncture. Do you think that we ever had acupuncture here in the West? I didn't know, but yes, we had. This is a very interesting finding. Not so long ago, I think it was, let me see if I can find, I think it was 20 years ago, something like this. One of the glaciers melted, and they found this corpse in the glaciers close to the in the Tiroler Alps. And this is a corpse from more than 5,000 years ago. And what they found, he was having kind of tattooage on his body, especially on locations of the lower back. And apparently he was suffering of a kind of discus disease. And they could see that there were a tattooage of acupuncture. So they used acupuncture to treat this type of pain. Very interesting. So maybe we even can talk about traditional Western medicine in regards to acupuncture. Okay, just some introduction about the culture. No, it's nice to have some understanding. But let's go back to traditional Chinese medicine, because it's right that most of that we know nowadays about Chinese medicine, and it comes from China. So here you can see this is the Yellow Emperor, one image of the Yellow Emperor. And he wrote a book together with the 9 ministers that were living together with him about healthcare. And it's translated in English, and it's called The Inner Canon of the Yellow Emperor. And it's based off 2 books. Each of them have more or less 88 chapters. And everything is written there about the basics of the traditional Chinese medicine, and also about acupuncture in itself. And it is recently translated also in English. So for the ones who are very, very curious, you can find something more about it. So what about acupuncture then in the West? No? And just to give you some short stories, actually the acupuncture became famous in America around the 70s, because at that time they were already facing an addiction crisis, and they were having no solutions. So through the connections that they had with China, they started to give acupuncture to treat people who were addicted to drugs and alcohol. And it had an effect. And at that time, there was also a famous reporter, Scotty was his name, and he got acute appendicitis, and he had to be operated in China, but he had a lot of pain. And then he said, no problem, we give you some acupuncture. And he was completely surprised, because the pain went away very easily, without painkillers, but with acupuncture. And as he was a famous journalist, he wrote in this Newsweek about acupuncture that he had, and based on that, it became famous in America. So also at that time, Nixon had quite some good relationship with China, so there could come kind of exchange in Chinese Western medicine. So this is what we see of acupuncture developments. And also in 1976, there was this association of acupuncture developed, and you can see over time, slowly, acupuncture came into Western healthcare systems. So the World Health Organization accepted at 1979 that there were 43 types of diseases where acupuncture could be used. Later on, I will show you some more about that. And also the National Institute of Health, they started to include acupuncture in their medical systems. And over time, you see it is introduced in our Western healthcare system. And what did the World Health Organization say about how to use acupuncture inside of Western healthcare? First of all, they said, okay, acupuncture has been proven to be effective, then sure, it can be introduced inside of Western care. If not proven, but there has been a therapeutic effect, but further research is needed to see the effects of it, but it is safe, it can be used. Then they were saying, okay, even though if some research has shown therapeutic effects, but it does not, we don't have really solutions seen from Western point of view, why not to use? So then also acupuncture can be introduced. And they say also, if you don't have any options and it is safe to use, you can also use acupuncture. So they opened the door to use acupuncture in Western healthcare systems. And then in 2014, there was quite a great, well, let's say, step forward in this whole process of introducing traditional medicine inside of Western medicine by this article here in Science. Science is a very famous research, paper. And a whole chapter was about traditional Chinese medicine. So slowly we see it is more and more integrated. And also recently, the World Health Organization made, let's say, a script how to use safely acupuncture in Western medicine. Why I put so much emphasis on this? Because for many people, it's hard to define to use either acupuncture as a medical treatment in regards to Western medicine. So often you see that it's used both Western and traditional medicine, not one instead of the other. So I think this is important to see it from that point of view. Because, for example, sure, if we break a leg, we go to surgery, no? And to get it fixed. Acupuncture is not the first way to treat that. But in the sense of having a lot of pain due to a fracture of the leg, it can be an interesting treatment to add besides, for example, also some painkillers. So over time, what we see is that acupuncture became more and more popular, and also more and more research has been done on the effects of acupuncture. And nowadays we have this PubMed. It's a place where we can find all scientific articles. And you can see here it started around 1827. There were almost no scientific papers until more or less the 70s. And here you can see a huge increase of articles. So this is just a short introduction about the background of acupuncture in a medical setting. But most of you are, I think, more interested in for which kind of diseases can you use acupuncture. So this is just a small list, because it's quite a lot. Some of these diseases, in regards to acupuncture, there is done quite good research with good evidence. For others, there is less evidence. But for these type of diseases, most of them are now integrated in these diseases that the World Health Organization also mentioned in their let's say, overviews. So you can see pain is one that is acupuncture is used a lot to reduce pain. But also, for example, the sinusitis and rhinitis. I see quite a lot of patients who are having troubles with that, and we can reduce the symptoms quite well. Anxiety and depression, for example, and people can say, how is this possible to treat something that maybe is mentally created through needles in the body? But in our Western approach, body and mind, we see as separate parts. But within the holistic traditional medicine, we see they're, let's say, two sides of the same coin. So by using needles at specific places at the body, we can treat also the mind. In Chinese medicine, they call the mind Sheng. And this Sheng, it's very interesting that we have different organs, of course, and each organ influences another organ. So, for example, the liver influences the heart. And when we have, for example, a lot of anxiety, and we treat the liver through the acupuncture, we can do something with the anxiety that is that's related also to, for example, palpitations, that is related to anxiety. So I'll say some more about it later on, how these organs are related to each other. But yes, also mentally problems can be treated through acupuncture. And then, for example, frozen shoulder and bursitis. I remember some 15 years ago, I had to do a training for corticosteroid injections based on my medical training. And there was an orthopedic chirurg, and he was the teacher. So then he said, well, actually the best treatment for a bursitis of the shoulder, based on all the literature that we have worldwide, is acupuncture. And then the group of doctors with whom I was, they were saying, no, impossible, and do you believe something bizarre? And then he said, sorry, wait a second, it's not my idea, but it's the meta-analysis and all the scientific proof that we collected. And based on that, we found out that acupuncture, for what we have now, is the most effective, even above corticosteroid injections. No one wanted, well, let's say, hardly no one wanted to accept that treatment, even though, for example, acupuncture, compared to corticosteroid injections, has far less side effects. I could say almost no side effects. Maybe you feel just a painful spot while we're needling the shoulder. So interesting that even though these doctors know that they have, let's say, a scientific background, but they were putting their own, let's say, ideas place it above the science. So we still have some work to do, let's say. And here is written, for example, heart attack. Well, I can definitely say that we're not going to use acupuncture when someone is having a heart attack. But of course, what you can do is during such moments of strong pain and fear is related, we can reduce with acupuncture the fear, and it can also be of help in this matter. But it's definitely not written there to say acupuncture can reduce the symptoms of a heart attack. Headaches, you can see. Obesity, overweight, very interesting. I will show you later on some more. Knee pain, sciatica, so a lot of type of diseases that we use acupuncture for. For the diehards who like to know more about this, there is a scientific research overview, and this is the one, an overview of traditional Chinese medicine research, and all the updated articles you can find there about the diseases. So some people will say, okay, it's interesting what you're saying, but I heard, for example, that whether you put one needle here or one needle at another point, it has an effect. Isn't it just all placebo? Is it all in the mind? For example, are we just making things up and that through the psychological wish to be helped, that a change is made? This is a very important and let's say not so easy to explain, but let's go a little bit through it. So here you can see some criticism in regards to the research that has been done. I'm not going through all this in this moment. I think it is very interesting to have a talk with colleagues, doctors, about all these criticism, but I just wanted to share here also that part, that it's that there's a lot of discussion going on. Later on I will explain a little bit more about this sham acupuncture, no, this placebo acupuncture versus the real acupuncture. But let's have a look, because I think America is the one who is in the front using acupuncture inside of Western medical care. Let's see how they use acupuncture. Here you can see. So, for example, when people are sick, in hospitals, and nowadays more than 70 academic hospitals in America, they have a department of complementary and alternative medicine. And inside of those departments, acupuncture is often given. But in those departments of integrative medicine, they also prescribe natural products. They put a lot of attention on the nutrition, the one we spoke before. Of course, psychological support in this, when people are sick. And here you can see that also in the hospital they give meditation, breathing and relaxation techniques. They use arts, music, dance, movement education, yoga, tai chi, things that we already mentioned, no? And also acupuncture is there integrated inside of Western healthcare academic hospitals. And of course also the massage and also working with heat and colds. And sure, there is this also the Western aspects of surgery. But you can see that in those hospitals in America, they're already integrating some of the whole medical system parts inside of their treatment plan. And I use the word integrative medicine because sometimes it's not so easy to understand what is the difference then between alternative medicine. In America, they use this definition. Alternative medicine is used in place of conventional Western medicines, or conventional medicine, another word is Western medicine. Complementary medicine, when they talk about this, they say, okay, it is used together with Western medicine, so traditional medicine and Western medicine, side to side. But if you try to integrate everything as a whole, so the traditional medicine inside of Western medicine, to really make it 1 + 1 makes 3, then they call it integrative medicine. So it's used together with conventional medicine in a deliberate manner that is personalized, evidence-based, and safe. So I don't know if people, if you know with this terminology, integrative medicine, who knows about this development? Not many, no? Okay. It's a very, very interesting development to have a look at if you are interested in it. At least in this a good attempt to bring the knowledge of the old traditions together with Western medicine, together. And how do they do this? For example, this is a webpage of the National Institute of Health. And they have a beautiful website. Okay, what is acupuncture? What about the effectiveness, the safeness, the safety of it, and for what type of diseases it can be used. And not one hospital, as I mentioned, but many hospitals are using this. You can see here the Osher Center for Integrative Medicine. It's a huge center. Also in cancer care, they're using integrative medicine and also acupuncture. And you can see here even more huge academic hospitals in America. Okay, so oncology, I already mentioned cancer. Cancer and acupuncture, it's a very interesting approach. Of course, with acupuncture you cannot cure cancer, but it is used to reduce the side effects of, for example, chemotherapy and radiotherapy, to reduce nausea. And so in these centers in America, you see more and more acupuncture is used. Parkinson, something maybe you don't think about that immediately of an effect with acupuncture, but recently some very good data has been collected about the effects to reduce the symptoms of Parkinson. And I can go on and on, for example, also Alzheimer and for overweight. So how does acupuncture has such an impact on all these type of different diseases? This is not so easy to explain, but I'm going to talk a little bit about these working mechanisms of acupuncture. But first I want just to have a look here in Italy. What is the use of acupuncture nowadays? It's not that much yet, so we have a good chance here to improve, but acupuncture is allowed to practice and to integrate in Western healthcare systems since 1982. But only 4% of the people nowadays in Italy have had a treatment of acupuncture. And but let's say there are some pain clinics here in Italy that are already proposing to give acupuncture, for example, in regards to pain. But here in Italy, only when it's allowed to practice acupuncture when it is performed by a doctor, not by a therapist. So this is, I think, something that is very particular for Italy. For example, in Switzerland, if you have followed the 5-year training in acupuncture, then you can become a therapist and you can perform also acupuncture there. So every country has its own rules. But let's have a look. about some mechanisms of acupuncture. If we can go through it a little bit more. How does it work? Well, I found it very interesting to have a look on internet what people are writing about acupuncture. So, the first one, Wikipedia, is saying acupuncture involves inserting needles into the body at so-called acupuncture points, but acupuncture is a pseudoscience, so actually it's not true. It's just something made up. Wikipedia. Then another website is saying, okay, acupuncture works with qi, an energy flow. It's primarily about distributing energy and removing blockages in the flow of energy, also called meridians. Then at another website you can find acupuncture restores energy balance and stimulates your body's self-healing capacity. It's a very old and proven medical method. And last but not least, acupuncture is based on metaphorical concepts, has no psychological basis, and attracts lay people who can then play doctor later in life and know better than the doctor himself. So, also some critics there. So what is acupuncture? So I put this lady here. Sometimes maybe you can feel also like this lady. What is true? Okay, how to relate to acupuncture? It's not so easy to explain how it works. So it's a kind of, you could say, a black box. No, we have the traditional Chinese medicine, the way how they looked at nature 3,000 years ago, using words and concepts that nowadays don't have that much meaning for most people of us. Luckily, here in Albagnano, as we're practicing, for example, making peace with the environment, we are more used to be aware of the 5 elements that are, let's say, the basic ground under every part of life. But it's an ancient way of looking at the building blocks of our how life is sustained. And also this aspect of meridians. Actually, meridians was a terminology that was used by a French doctor who tried to translate the Chinese texts and try to find a word that did not yet exist in our Western language. So finally, they came up with meridians, based on the how we, let's say, divided the Earth in the meridians of the time schedule. No? But actually, meridians was not a well-chosen word. Nowadays, we talk more about channels. So why channels? Because they say it's something that energy goes through. And we can see it from a very gross point of view to more subtle aspects of how energy and movement is going on in our body. So, for example, meridians is something that we cannot see, but there is movement of something, of qi, of energy. And there is always, let's say, a pulse. So we have plus and minus. So we go from one part to another part. So they were saying there is always movement. So these are some principles that they use to express how the body moves. And nowadays we have neurobiology, neurobiological concepts, neuroanatomy and physiology. And this is nowadays the way we look at our body that we cannot see, but try to, let's say, give it some names. And of course, the chemical structure in the body nowadays we can quite well distinguish. So to integrate this way of looking with the Western way of looking is not so easy. We don't have yet the right language for that. But anyhow, we give it a try. So, what is interesting is that you can see here one of the pictures from the Chinese books where you can find acupuncture points in the body. And they are very clearly pointed out. We have more than 500 different acupuncture points on our body, seen from the traditional Chinese medicine. But if you look how the nerve system is seen in our body, and this is, let's say, the part of the spine, it's very interesting to see that we have, well, these spots that they point out that are important to use. It could be related to this part of our nerve system and also of our lymphatic system. So it's possible that they're quite strongly related to each other. So nowadays, from, let's say, Western point of view, we can understand a little bit what is going on if we put one needle inside of our skin, because we see that we have very, very small nerves under the skin. And by touching the needle, we activate, we call A and C fibers. And this gives a signal to the brain. So you can see here, let's have a look. When we needle the leg, for example, a whole process is started through the spinal cord towards our brain and generates hormones and stimuli. So nowadays we know that it's not just only that we, let's say, this pseudoscience, but there is really something going on in creating and activating these neurotransmitters. And I think Monday, Rogier also spoke a bit about neurotransmitters. So there is release, for example, of endorphins and serotonin and dopamine. And also there is an autonomic nervous system regulation of balancing the sympathetic nerve system and parasympathetic nerve system. So the one that is creating, let's say, our activation and stress, and that is creating more relaxation of improving, for example, our sleep quality. And also we see different biochemical changes when we use acupuncture in the mitochondria, for example. So there is something going on when we use acupuncture. And there is one lady, and she's really trying to work in this field. Some have some critics on her work, but I think she's doing it in a very, very scientific way. She is the head of the National Institute of Health of Complementary and Alternative Medicine, and she is a Western doctor, but she worked next to an acupuncture clinic. And she was already doing quite some research on how the body responds to stimuli. And then she became curious about acupuncture, and so she became also an acupuncturist and continued her work as a scientist and researcher in regards to acupuncture. And she did all different kinds of research, and I'll share a little bit with you. So first of all, she wanted to see what is this difference between this sham acupuncture, so this fake acupuncture, and real acupuncture. So this is what they do in studies, is that the person feels a pressure on the skin, but the needle does not enter the skin. This is what they call, for example, sham acupuncture. And this is the real acupuncture, no? That the needle really enters the skin. And they saw that both of them had an effect, but a different effect. So this is a bit maybe difficult to understand, but what they saw is the people who had this fake acupuncture or sham acupuncture did not show an effect, and with acupuncture there was more effect size measured on different types of disease. And then also she did other types of research to really measure what the impact is of a needle on the skin. So they developed this whole machine to measure the effect of one needle in the skin to get a better outcome and an understanding. So her research is nowadays very often used to understand some more about the effects. And one of the things that I like very much is what they found is that if you just pressure the skin, sure, the skin is moving, the muscle is moving. But when you put an acupuncture needle exactly at one specific point, an acupuncture point, we see that there comes this kind of spiral. So there is a kind of twist. And also when we put the needle in the skin, we give some, let's say, movement to the needle. And this type of activation of the skin gives another effect. Another effect in heat, but also what they see is that up to 4 or 5 centimeters beyond where you put the needle, there is effects measured. And so at those places where you put the needle, there are very subtle, let's say, capillaries, nerve system, and by that, this is one of the theories. The acupuncture creates stimuli to the brain. And I talked before with you about fascia, and we have a very interesting part of our body, and this is the interstitial area of our body that is between the skin and the muscles. And when you do autopsy, it's a very, very, very thin layer. And we did not give that much attention to this part of our body. But it seems that this part of interstitial system of tissue and also the part of the fascia, it's a whole structure of movements, of fluids. And nowadays we have new, let's say, technology to bring this into sight, how this works. And I will show you just a short video of this fascia and about these channels, these movements. Hey, wait. Wait. I try to bring this into sight. Let's have a look, Armenia, if we can organize that. Let's have a look. Okay. Here we go. Due to the lights, it's not so clear, but you see all drops and fluids going through this very, very subtle layer under the skin. So later on the presentation you can have a look on your own computer if you like, but it's quite impressive how they could show this liquid movement inside of our body. Let's have a look. All right. So what we nowadays know is that this connective tissue or fascias, when we move it all these very subtle aspects of blood stimulation, micro nerve stimulation is activated, and so not only by massage but also by using needles, for example. So, as I already mentioned, shall we better talk about, let's say, channels or networks or meridians? For everyone who, I think for each person prefers another type of language, but I like very much to talk in this way, to see it from more gross, so muscles, fat, bones, fascia, tendons, large blood vessels, nerve nodes, lymph nodes, to a more subtle system that we have in our body, of capillaries, small nerves, and lymphatic system. And then we have the very subtle systems inside of our body, intracellular networks, tissue and continuum and sliding structures, and even more subtle. So what we do with the self-healing, we work on this very subtle energy, and it's not only by, for example, using a needle, but also by intention, by mind. We can do and give an impact on the body through the mind. This is part of the very subtle body and mind work, you could say. Anyhow, there's so much more to say about it and not so easy to define, but I just wanted to share with you some ideas and perspectives. As we have a kind of appearing and hidden nature inside of ourselves and also in the outer world. So it is up to us to learn to connect with it. And just to say a little bit more about the basics of the traditional Chinese medicine, no? We work with this duality, as I already mentioned, plus and minus, or yin and yang. And in this force of opposites, there is movement. They work with these 5 elements we already talked about, and that is related also to the 5 organs. They say the full organs, like the heart, the liver, the kidneys, the spleen, and the lungs. And also the 5 hollow organs, like small intestine, large intestine, the bladder, for example. And also pericard, what they say, and sanjiao. So these are aspects of our organs, and they are all interrelated and connected with each other. And this aspect of this yin-yang, one of these aspects is the hot and cold nature of food, for example, of hot and nature aspects in regards to a disease. So based on that, with acupuncture, we try to balance these parts in our body. And so this imbalance that we have in our body, we try to rebalance with using these acupuncture points. Let me see. So for the ones who are very much interested in how this whole knowledge came about, this is the latest and the first translation of the let's say the starting point of this very subtle energy that is divided from, let's say, point 0 into polarity, yin-yang or plus minus, and out of this there comes a whole complex method and of energy. And sometimes, I don't know if you have seen this before, it's mentioned and written in such way. It's called also the Bagua. And this is an old tradition style to let's say, to explain the laws of nature. And out of these 8 types of nature that we have, 4 are related to yin and 4 to yang. All the other types of manifestation comes. So, for example, what we say in Tibetan medicine, and also when we work in the and also self-healing, for example, of the chakras. Now we say 16 petals, 32 petals, 64 petals. Those are the meridians or channels, and all these type of channels are related to the 8 channels that we come out of our heart. And these 8 channels of our heart chakra are, let's say, written in this sequence. So finally, you can also find a lot of similarities between Chinese and Tibetan medicine, but also with our practice of the also self-healing that we do here in Albagnano. And by doing self-healing, it's interesting that we work on this type of the deepest origin of the energy that is our basis, the layers that we have in our body. And by doing these kind of practices, we can work on a very subtle level on rebalancing the more gross and parts of our body. So sometimes it's also shown like this, that we have 5 main organs, and each organ, the liver is related to the spleen is related to the kidney is related to the heart, and they all have their own specific sequences. So we work with these sequences to rebalance the body. And if you think, wow, this is quite something, no, this is far away from what we're doing now, and nowadays in our Western medicine, actually not that long ago, our founding father of the Western medicine, Hippocrates, he used this system. He was working with this specific system. And even though nowadays we don't use it anymore, the Greek medicine, and that is, let's say, the basis of what we are nowadays call Western medicine, came out of this system. So far away and maybe not so far away. So I just wanted to give you a small taste, introduction of Chinese medicine today. And there's so much more to tell about, but I hope it could inspire you. And just to mention, as I started, I work as a family doctor, but I also studied Chinese Tibetan medicine. And since 3 years, I'm living here now in Albagnano and working with acupuncture, mainly as a family doctor. And recently, I started my own studio here in Albagnano. So for the ones who are interested, from October on, I will open my studio. And for someone who is interested in it, more than welcome to have a consultation. And my website is not yet in the air, but in October it will be. So also there you can find more information. And then for the ones who like to have a look at a book to read some more, this one I can recommend, The Web That Has No Weaver. It's, let's say, a basic introduction in Chinese medicine. And if you have a medical background, this one I can really recommend. It's beautiful because it's written by a doctor who studied also Western medicine and looks at acupuncture from the whole embryology. And also there are a lot of clues how to understand Chinese medicine in regards to our Western way of looking. So, to conclude, there is a gradually increasing scientific evidence for acupuncture, and also in the academic centers in America. In Italy, we still have a lot to do here. It's generally safe. It can be very good integrated into the conventional Western treatments, and yes, it can significantly contribute to reducing symptoms of complex chronic diseases. So I can really recommend it to have a try in case you have some trouble of diseases. So thanks a lot for your attention, and please let me know if there are some questions. No question? Yeah, I see a question. Yes, tell me. And Moxa? Yeah, yeah. In the beginning of the presentation, but you were not there yet, I explained there are different aspects of traditional Chinese medicine. So the question is, what is the difference between, for example, acupuncture and moxa? At the beginning of the presentation, I explained a little bit the differences between these type of treatments, but they're all inside of traditional Chinese medicine. Yep. Any other question? Time for dinner, huh? All right, and some relaxation. Ok. Buon appetito, buon riposo e ci vediamo domani. Grazie mille.
Check the first part on streaming. Sorry. And also, I think that is most private question because I'm thinking on studying Chinese medicine.
I just take off this one and I switch it off. So then switch off. Yeah, if you can take it off from the dress, yes, and then I'll switch it off.